but a handful of experts did handle the artifacts and inspect the photos, and their first impressions suggested they were not fakes.
I've actually also seen an object. I've had it in my hands. I've shown it around actually people. I know what it looks like. And I showed it to a colleague of mine who is an archaeologist, metallurgist, and his first reaction was, this feels and looks authentic.
Hidden in the desert, buried for centuries, and forgotten by time, an astonishing discovery was made in the hills of Jordan that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about the Bible, Christianity, and human history. These were no ordinary relics. What researchers found were 70 tiny ancient books, smaller than a credit card, sealed in lead and copper, covered in cryptic symbols, and older than any biblical manuscript ever uncovered. Before we take a deep dive into this astonishing archaeological discovery, please subscribe to our channel so we can keep exploring the hidden truths of the ancient world together. It all began in 2011, when the Jewish Chronicle reported the discovery of dozens of mysterious books found inside a remote cave in Jordan. They weren't made of paper or parchment. They were metal, tiny codices made of lead and copper, with some bound by rings and others still sealed shut. Scholars immediately began to wonder, could these be older than the Bible itself? One of the first experts to respond was David Elkington, a British historian and archaeologist who led the early research into the codices. He was stunned. "It's an enormous privilege to be able to work on material of this kind," he said. "To hold something in your hands that might have been held by the early saints of the Church is just breathtaking." These 70 metal books, known as Codices, contain inscriptions in Paleo-Hebrew, Aramaic, and Ancient Greek. The images found within them include 7 branched menorahs, palm trees, 8 pointed stars, temple vessels, and a crown of thorns, clear references to Jewish traditions and the Christian Messiah. But that wasn't all. One of the most shocking discoveries was a portrait of Jesus, possibly the earliest ever discovered. He is shown wearing a crown of thorns, and beside him is an inscription that reads, "Savior of Israel." This caused scholars to question everything. Could the artist have actually seen Jesus in person? The books contain coded messages, symbols, and names, some of which scholars say may connect directly to events in the New Testament. One book mentions Jesus and a man named Simon, possibly Simon of Cyrene, the man who helped Jesus carry his cross. Mark chapter 15, verse 21. Others believe the Simon could refer to Simon bar Kokhba, the leader of the Jewish revolt against Rome in 135 AD. Either way, the names suggest a time frame close to the early days of Christianity. The Apostle John spoke of sealed books in his vision of Revelation. In Revelation chapter 5, verse 1, we read, "Then I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll with writing on both sides and sealed with 7 seals." Dr. Margaret Barker, a former president of the Society for Old Testament Study, pointed out the similarity between John's sealed scroll and these sealed codices. She said, "We have never seen anything like this. These books could be one of the most important discoveries in biblical archaeology." The codices were smuggled out of Jordan by an Israeli Bedouin who claimed they had been in his family for over 100 years, passed down from his great-grandfather. The dispute over who truly owns these artifacts led to a fierce legal and political battle between Israel and Jordan. Still, despite the tension, research pushed forward. Critics questioned their authenticity. Some believed they were modern fakes, possibly souvenirs. To resolve this, a group of 9 independent scholars, unrelated to David Elkington, came together. This team included specialists in metallurgy, ancient scripts, and biblical languages. Among them was Professor Robert Hayward, a respected Hebrew scholar. The first test involved analyzing the metal. Lead absorbs radiation over time, but post-1945 atomic bomb tests contaminated modern metals with radioactive particles. If these books had no radiation, they had to predate 1945. Professor Roger Webb from the University of Surrey confirmed, "When we analyzed the metal, there was no trace of modern radioactivity. That means the lead is genuinely ancient." Further tests showed the books were made from ancient Roman lead, full of impurities and crystalline holes that develop only over centuries. These weren't modern forgeries. They were real and very old. The codices are filled with symbolic images. Some we recognize, and others remain mysterious. One image shows a cross in front of what appears to be a tomb, with city walls in the background. Professor Philip Davies of Sheffield University said, "It's a clear representation of Jesus' crucifixion outside the city." This could change our understanding of how early Christians remembered the event. The codices also depicted the seven-branched lampstand, or menorah, an object that, according to Jewish tradition, could only be seen by the high priest inside the temple's inner sanctuary. To draw it was forbidden. So how did these early Christians know what it looked like? Some believe these books were created by exiled temple priests who had knowledge passed down from within. Dr. Margaret Barker explained, "The patterns and symbols in these books mirror temple theology. This could be the work of priests preserving sacred knowledge outside the destroyed temple." But the biggest mystery still remains. Why were so many of the codices sealed? Dr. Margaret Barker offered a possibility. Some of the texts could be part of secret teachings passed from Jesus to his inner circle. They may have been hidden to protect them from Roman persecution. In Matthew chapter 13, verse 11, Jesus told his disciples, "The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them." Could these books contain those secrets? Some scholars even speculate that the sealed books might have been spiritual talismans, meant not to be read, but to serve as protective symbols or testimonies of faith. David Elkington, who helped bring this discovery to light, emphasized, "These books are a monumental find for Christianity. They could be earlier than Paul's letters, which means they come from the very dawn of Christian history." But he also warned, "The biggest danger is that the collection will be broken up or sold piece by piece. We must protect it and study it as a whole." The fear of black market sales looms large. Some books have already disappeared from public view. Scholars around the world are calling for international cooperation to preserve the collection. So what does all this mean? If these lead codices are genuine, and so far all tests say they are, they represent one of the most important finds in biblical history. They offer a rare glimpse into the early Christian worldview, possibly crafted by eyewitnesses to Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. They may even carry messages once sealed away for a future generation to discover. In Romans chapter 15, verse 4, Paul wrote, "For everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the endurance taught in the Scriptures and the encouragement they provide, we might have hope." These books, now unsealed, could be part of that hope. We are only beginning to understand their message. But one thing is certain: these tiny metal books have a very big story to tell. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe these codices might reveal if fully deciphered? And don't forget, please subscribe to our channel to stay updated on discoveries that could change everything we know about the Bible, history, and our faith. Let's keep digging deeper together.